Imagine this, a refrigerator sitting in a room. Sounds ordinary, right? But what if I told you this fridge held a dark secret? A human skeleton hidden inside for nearly 34 months. And here's the kicker. To this day, no one knows whose remains they are. The story begins in Jaswant Nagar, India. In this village lived a family, and among them was a young girl named Rita. She was a bright and obedient child who always listened to her parents and regularly attended school. As time passed, the date was September 19th, 2020. That morning, Rita left home for some work. However, when she didn't return by evening, her parents grew extremely worried. They searched for her everywhere but couldn't find any clues. Left with no other choice, they went to the police station and filed a missing person report. Despite their efforts, the police couldn't find any leads. Days passed, and on September 24th, a shocking discovery was made. A burnt skeleton was found near the fields, just a little distance from their own farmland. The news spread like wildfire across the village, and Rita's parents soon learned about the unidentified remains. Fearing the worst, they rushed to the site and saw the burnt skeleton. While the body was unrecognizable, they found a sandal and some clothing nearby, items that belonged to Rita. This confirmed their worst fears. Rita's parents immediately informed the police, mentioning that they had previously suspected a man named Ramkumar to be involved in her disappearance. However, the police took the remains to Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar Hospital's mortuary for further examination, while Rita's grieving parents followed them to the hospital. Rita's parents arrived at the police station and asked why their daughter's remains were kept there. They pleaded with the authorities to return their daughter's body so they could perform the final rites. However, the police firmly refused, stating that it was still uncertain whether the remains truly belonged to Rita. They explained that a DNA test needed to be conducted first to confirm the identity. Only after the test results would they be able to hand over the remains. Hearing this, her parents calmed down a little, realizing that mistakes can sometimes happen, and misidentification could lead to unnecessary complications. They returned home, waiting anxiously for the test results so they could finally bring their daughter home. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Rita's parents grew increasingly desperate. After nearly a month and a half with no updates, they visited the police station again, pleading with the officers to conduct the DNA test and return their daughter's remains. But the police claimed they were too busy to handle it at the moment. Time continued to pass. Weeks turned into months, and months into years. The crime had occurred in 2020, and by now, it was already 2022. Nearly 2 years had gone by without any progress. It was only then that the police finally decided to take action. The authorities collected a DNA sample from the skeletal remains, along with a sample from Rita's mother, and sent them to a forensic lab in Hyderabad for testing. They informed the parents that the results could take a month or even longer to arrive. Heartbroken but left with no choice, Rita's parents returned home and waited. A month passed, and still there was no word from the police. Growing more restless, they started visiting the police station every single day, hoping for an update. Each time, they received the same response. The report hasn't arrived yet. As soon as we receive it, we will inform you. Despite their exhaustion and grief, Rita's parents continued their daily visits, clinging to the hope that the DNA test would reveal the remains were not their daughter's, that maybe, just maybe, she was still alive somewhere. But at the same time, they knew that if the remains did belong to Rita, they wanted to give her a proper farewell, following all the rituals so her soul could rest in peace. Tired and weary, they often found themselves at Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar Hospital, sitting outside the morgue, where the body had
On
been
the
kept
surface,
in a
these events may seem
refrigerator.
simple,
They would sit
but
there
just
for
imagine the
hours,
pain of those
staring at the
parents who
cold
visit the police
storage
station
unit,
every day.
hoping for
They go to the
closure,
morgue
hoping
repeatedly,
for a
looking at an
miracle. Is
unclaimed
their
body,
daughter
wondering if
inside,
it's their
or
daughter.
is it someone
The emotional
else?
toll
They
on
wait
them
in
is beyond
silence,
words.
hoping for
As time
answers
passes, the
before
DNA test
finally
report finally
returning
arrives
home.
at the police station.
On the surface,
The officers
these
read it,
events
and
may
to their
seem
shock,
simple,
it states that
but
they
just
cannot
imagine the
confirm
pain
whether
of
the
those
body
parents
belongs to
who visit
Rita
the
or
police
not.
station every day. They go to the morgue repeatedly, looking at an unclaimed body, wondering if it's their daughter. The emotional toll on them is beyond words. As time passes, the DNA test report finally arrives at the police station. The officers read it, and to their shock, it states that they cannot confirm whether the body belongs to Rita or not. The reason? The collected sample was not taken properly, making identification impossible. The report advises collecting fresh samples and sending them again for accurate results. When Rita's parents hear about the report, they rush to the police station, desperate for answers. But upon learning that the report is inconclusive, their anxiety only grows. The police assure them that they will send another DNA sample, but it will take more time. Days turn into months. The first DNA report had arrived on March the 26th, 2022. After several months, in August 2022, a new DNA sample is collected from the remains, along with a fresh sample from Rita's mother. These are sent to the Hyderabad lab for further testing. They wait once again. Finally, at the end of 2022, the updated DNA report arrives. But when the police read it, they are stunned. The report states the same thing as before. The samples were not collected properly, making identification impossible. The forensic experts question how the samples were even taken. Rita's parents return to the police station, still waiting for closure, still unsure if the body belongs to their daughter. But once again, they hear the same response. The samples were incorrect. The case remains unresolved. Now the third sample collection is due, but this time, the police seem reluctant to send it. Why? What is really happening behind the scenes? For some reason, they had completely forgotten that they needed to send the DNA sample again. Meanwhile, Rita's parents kept visiting the police station, hoping for an answer, but no one was listening to them. Then, someone from a nearby village advised them to take the matter to court, as that might finally get them justice. Taking this advice, they approached a lawyer and filed a case in the High Court. When they stood before the judge, their lawyer explained the entire situation. These parents lost their daughter in 2020. Her remains have been kept in a hospital morgue for years. The police sent DNA samples twice, but each time they were collected incorrectly. As a result, the parents still don't know whether the body belongs to their daughter or not. They need closure, either confirmation that it is indeed their child or proof that it isn't. Hearing this, the judge turned to the police and demanded to know why this was taking so long. The police responded, "We have already sent the samples twice, but they were not collected properly. Also, we do not have enough budget to keep sending samples repeatedly, as the process is costly." At this point, the parents' lawyer stepped forward and said, "If the issue is money, these grieving parents are willing to cover the costs themselves. They have spent the past 3 years running from one office to another just to get a simple answer. 3 years, Your Honor." Hearing this, even the judge was visibly moved. He could not imagine the pain of parents who had been waiting for 3 long years, desperately hoping for closure. Their daughter had passed away once, but for 3 years, these parents had been dying every single day, living in uncertainty. The judge then firmly ordered the police to collect the samples correctly this time and send them to the lab immediately. He also instructed them to submit the final report without any further delay. Following the court's strict orders, the police carefully collected fresh samples, both from the remains and from Rita's mother, and sent them to the lab once again. Finally, when the new DNA report arrived, it confirmed the truth. The remains did, in fact, belong to Rita. When Rita's parents received this confirmation, they were overcome with grief. They broke down in tears, knowing for sure that their daughter was gone. But amidst their sorrow, there was also a sense of relief. After 3 years of waiting, they finally had the answer they had been seeking. They could now give their daughter a proper farewell. The court then ordered the authorities to hand over Rita's remains to her family. After 34 long months, the morgue's freezer was finally opened, and under police supervision, her remains were given to her parents. Rita's parents took her remains back to their village, where they carefully dug a grave in their own field. With full rituals and traditions, they laid her to rest. But while Rita's body was now buried, one question remained unanswered. Who was responsible for her death? Now the police had a new mission, uncovering the truth behind Rita's tragic fate. The police were now determined to solve this case. They reopened the FIR that Rita's parents had filed years ago. Upon reviewing it, they noticed that her parents had mentioned a suspect, a man named Ramkumar. As soon as the police saw his name, they headed to the village and started their investigation. However, they soon discovered that ever since Rita had gone missing, Ramkumar and his family had also disappeared. For a long time, the police searched for him, but he remained untraceable. Then one day, something unexpected happened. Ramkumar himself walked into the police station and surrendered. He confessed, saying, "Yes, I killed Rita. I loved her, but because we belonged to different castes, things took a terrible turn, and I ended up taking her life." What happens next? What punishment will he receive? I will keep you updated on this case. That's all for today's story. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. And if you liked the video, make sure to hit the like button and share it with others. I'll see you soon with another interesting case.